Is this something to be on guard about? What will happen when martial law is declared nationwide with our jobs, school, and everyday activities? Thanks. Yeah, you know what? It kind of fits in because if you, the beginning of this show, I know a lot of you can't come in different times throughout the show. I was just talking about a code I had found back in 2003 about 2 missiles being fired toward the West Coast. And I also had a vision of this, a spiritual vision that the Lord had given me of this, where I saw these 2 missiles launched right here on our own territory, somewhere in the Midwest or North, and probably like Minot. And I'll tell you why I'll pick the Minot. But it's somewhere in the U.S. and they're launched and they're going towards the West Coast. That's all I know. I don't know what cities were being targeted, although at the time I felt it was San Francisco or Los Angeles. Actually, one of them could be, they could split as well. One could hit Salt Lake City, one could go to the south and hit a city. And it was October for this code, and at the time when I had this vision, they're years apart. And I don't know what year. And so every time October comes around, it's like, is this the time? Another thing I had seen for the month of October was a comet hitting the Great Lakes. And I didn't know what year. There's a lot of comet possibilities hitting our land, our Earth, in 2009. And so I used to do these codes on specific comet names, and they always come up for 2009. So I don't know if we're really in fear of a comet landing in the Great Lakes this year or not. But now that I mention that, because it's the first time that's come to my mind in ages, it would make sense why I keep seeing the Lord gives me spiritual visions on the Great Lakes flooding out onto the Ohio and Michigan and Chicago going under the water. The comet hitting the Great Lakes, it would do it. It would also do that with the earth tilting. And Isaiah talks about how the earth will rock to and fro like a drunkard. And I had this specific vision where the north part was tilting and then the south part tilted up. So it not only hit us from the Great Lakes, because it would also hit us on the southern bordered states, Florida and Texas, and Florida is just completely gone at that point, because when the earth tilts south up, gets all the southern states. And so, yeah, time dates are just something I can't pin on that, because there can always be several months for the same event. But October was definitely one for the time I saw 2 missiles, and also for the comet hitting the Great Lakes. If you ever hear of martial law in your area, and you've got children in school, before you even load a 12 gauge, you go get your kids. Because these schools are planning down, locking these kids down in the schools and even busing them off. And so you can't even get your kids. And so you go get your kids first. You might want to take your 12 gauge with you. If they don't let you in, you start breaking out windows to get in. Most of these schools have probably herd their kids in gyms or whatever, because they'd have to have a place to have a bunch of kids. That's always been one of my greatest fears is martial law, and all of a sudden the schools are closed down and you can't go get your kids. So that's the first thing you want to do. If you even think it's in danger of something happening, the Lord telling you to keep your kids home for a day, keep them home, folks. You've got to learn to hear His voice in your spirit. He doesn't speak to your head. The elf god's having a field day on the internet with speaking to people's heads. He speaks to your spirit. It's a little small, still voice that speaks to your spirit. And you can pray every day and ask Him to make you aware of how to hear His voice, to make it very strong for you so that you know it's Him. Ask Him to teach you how to hear Him. Pray for these things every day, because when He gives you something, He gives it in measure, and so you always want more and more and more and more and more. And so just keep bugging Him. So that way you'll get more and more and more and more and more. Especially in these days, folks, because you need to be walking with His Spirit, in His Spirit. You need to be able to hear Him. The Lord's people are supposed to be people of the Spirit, not people of the flesh. Flesh is carnal. Fleshly people don't think of things spiritual or things of the Lord, and that's how we're not supposed to be. We're supposed to be walking in His Spirit with Him, and so a lot of us don't understand, okay, what is that? Well, just ask Him to teach you. And so He will. You know, when you start expecting, when people pray so amiss, they pray the wrong way all the time, and that's why they'll proclaim prayer doesn't work. Because they're praying for the wrong things. When you start praying for the right things, you're going to see a miraculous change in you, because he does answer those kinds of prayers. Martial law, you know what was wild, because I think I have it on my website somewhere too, at thewatcherfiles.com. I never take anything off my website, that's why it's so long, but it's on there somewhere. And it's about this plan that Bush had with Putin. And they were going to have this accidental nuclear exchange in December, where Putin was going to accidentally nuke 4 American cities, and in turn Bush would nuke a few of his, because they're all working together for the same boss folks to bring all countries under the submissive control of the Antichrist and this New World Order. And so depopulation is the number one thing on their agenda. And so now with Bush and Putin not getting along so well, because I told you, when push comes to shove, all these Satan freaks are going to be fighting over who gets to lead this New World Order. They all agree on the concept of the New World Order, because they're all playing their own little parts and making it come about. This one world government and this worldwide socialism and fascism, communism. But when it comes time push and shove, they're all going to fight over who gets to run it. And that's when you're going to see all start battling it out over who gets to lead it. Because right now, Bush and Putin are such great friends. So what's he going to do? He doesn't have his little buddy to nuke 4 American cities, because he could sure use that now, because he wants to get into Iran, blame it on Iran. And these cities, I remember all 4. I remember Charleston, South Carolina, Lexington, Kentucky, Dallas, Texas, and I thought there was another one in the South. I can't remember which one it was, though. But it was Dallas, and Houston's always got a code for a nuking. Houston, if you live in Houston, just get away from Houston. They're just going to destroy that place sooner or later. It's on everybody's hit list. It's even in Bush's, so just get away from Houston. And get out of Florida, because eventually that whole state's going down. And I hear from believers all the time that the Lord has been telling them, urging them to get out of Florida. And he always, you know what, when he strikes you to do something, he'll give you time to do it. That's why you'll hear from people, well, it's been a year now, 2 years, the Lord's still pushing me to get out of here. Well, go. You're lucky he's been giving you that long, because you know what, the Most High doesn't live in linear time. He doesn't live in a time zone like we do. And so when he warns of something, or he tells you to warn, tells me to warn of something coming up, it could happen an hour later. He doesn't live in time zones. But he's giving his people enough time to get to safety, to get to someplace safe. And so whenever we know they've got all kinds of plans for second 9/11s. And so martial law will start with that. And as soon as martial law starts, they're going to come up with some kind of legislation. And I believe it's going to be this whole this induction into the Luciferian initiation, New World Order type thing. Where the mark will come out. You have to get my marker, my tattoo or name, whatever it is, on or in your right-handed forehead. Richmond, Virginia, that's it. Somebody's been reading my website. The 4th city was Richmond, Virginia. So they have Charleston, South Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, Lexington, Kentucky, and Houston or Dallas. I think it was Dallas. So those were the ones the Russians were going to take care of for Bush, but now he doesn't have Putin on his side. Alright, just an email from a supporter. So funny. I heard you say that regular so-called Christians are bugging you. I say they are too arrogant for their own good, darling. I'm so glad you are standing your ground. Please don't kowtow to these creeps, Sherry. I love the spunky. I love my supporters, you know. Some of you guys have been with me for years now. I know you said Cain was the son of Eve.